Hi, welcome to the East Spot with Camille. I'm your host, Camille Cower, and I am so excited to introduce to you today my guest, Beverly Tan, who is a filmmaker right here in Raleigh, North Carolina, but she's also based out of LA, which is making her bi-coastal. But right now, during this pandemic, you're everywhere. So tell us, how did you get your start in the film industry?
So I decided I wanted to be a filmmaker when I was 7 years old, with like a little Sony like camcorder that still took, tapes that my dad got. And I don't even know like where when I started. I can't remember my first movie, which is really weird because like that's the first question someone will always ask me. So no, I do not remember what the first movie I saw or what my favorite childhood movie was. Like I don't remember that at all. Yeah, so I always like convinced my little sister to do like plays and parents and tell stories. I just love telling stories, taking my little dolls and, making stuff. And when you're 7 and you say, I'm going to be a filmmaker when I grow up, it's really cute. When you're 17, it's apparently not as cute because then your parents kind of just go like, so, what job are you going to have again? So I went to film school. And by I went to film school, I mean I got my film degree and I got a poetry degree, and I never went to class. And I skipped a lot of school to go work in the industry. That's what happened.
There you go. So on job learning. I love it. Tell me more about it.
So my professors did not like me because I was just never in class. So I went and I got into an argument with them about over my first film, my senior project. We were all supposed to do, films, and they told me that nobody would ever listen to me as a producer because I didn't have any friends in film school, and they were like, you're never going to be a producer because you can't get people to listen to you. And I was just like, screw you. I'm going to make a film without the school's resources or anything before senior year starts, and it's going to be great. And so I wrote a short film. I convinced some buddies of mine to film this, and that's how I filmed my first short. And we filmed this I got some really great people. I got my friend Henry Ciro, who's an incredible DP. He works for some huge brands these days. Tony, who was my gaffer. He's worked on some of these Marvel movies recently, and just some really great people locally that was just like, hey, I got mad at my professors and said I would do this, so let's do this. So we filmed over 3 days, and that is when my producer skills were really put to the test, because the funniest thing is I do Q&As, because this film ended up being finished, and it went on a world tour. It won 14 laurels. It screened at DCIFF, which is DC's oldest independent film festival. So it didn't go viral, but it was known, and that's how I got my first screenwriting narrative job, because this guy was just sitting in a workshop with me at DCIFF, and I was like, and I was casually talking to him over like some roasted cauliflower, and I was just like, so what was your favorite film? And he says, the last line was incredible. That's exactly the kind of writer I want to hire for my feature. I said, I wrote that. And he says, can I hire you? I was like, yes, I'm like 21 years old and a senior in film school.
Wow. So where were you at school? Yeah, where was this all located? Was this
Western Carolina University in Cullowhee, so in North Carolina. Yep. So that was the only hands-on film school besides School of Arts.
Right.
And I just love the mountains. So mountain school. Oopsies. Just threw my fidget toy on accident. It's fine.
Well, I've heard a rumor that you can make more, and we'll get to that later.
Yep. So yeah, that happened, and that's how I started flying out to Colorado, and that was my first time to be back coastal for quarterly meetings. That's where this guy actually lived, and so that's when I wrote a feature. I don't know if he ever actually sold it or what he did with the screenplay. I just know I got paid. So from there I went into commercial filmmaking, and I just started doing commercials. And I was like, hey, if you need a producer or filmmaker, like, let me do it.
Yeah. Now, what skills do you think that you learned, whether it's from school or just from on-the-job training, helped you the most with being able to even feel confident enough to go after these different jobs, especially producing? Because there's not a lot of women producers, and I don't know if the audience would always know that. So being a woman in entertainment is hard. Like, I will straight up tell you, it is hard. And a lot of it is getting over
being a woman, because yeah, everyone's gonna look at you just a little bit differently, and I'm kind of hot, so you know. And I've had my very fair share of guys being. I've lost jobs because you know a guy hit on me, and I said no, and I've definitely lost jobs that way several times, you know. And I think you know my experience have been pretty mild in comparison to you know several I've heard, but you know like it happens, and it's very unfortunate it happens, and
It shouldn't happen
at some point you just have to learn how to say no to stuff. Like that was honestly the biggest skill, saying no. When people say stuff like, hey, you know, will you cut your rate for this? I'll be like, no. Like know your value, because people will try to and male, female, whoever you are, it happens, especially if you're a younger new producer. Someone will always, you know, talk a lot, say a lot of really nice things that sound really exciting, and don't rush into stuff. And it's okay to say no. It's okay to say, I want more money. You need to pay me more because I'm good at this. I'm good at my job. And it's not being afraid to ask for it and say like, this is my rate, and I don't like your project enough to cut my rate. And I've straight up said that. And people will get mad. You have to have a thick skin. People get mad. People say horrible things to you. And it happens. And you just, and for me, I just kind of like, okay. And especially when I went into like the business side of filmmaking and like corporate filmmaking for like commercials and content things, you know, being young and, you know, just a newer producer, a lot of people were just like, okay, so we want, can you do it for half? I'm like, no. You just have to say no. And then you just have to say like, look, I can do this and you should hire me. And you just have to ask.
No, it's a shame that people will try to get over on certain people just because they know that they can too. Like, just like, ooh, well, let's hire a woman because we can pay her less. You know, like, why do that? Why not use the opportunity to give somebody that chance to change their life, as opposed to using it as, oh, let me cut some money by the woman that's working on set or the person of color or whatever it may be, paying them less. Like, that shouldn't be your first. Like,
yeah, what I tell clients is every time someone goes, oh, I know someone that's like a student that can do it for cheaper, I'll say, and I have clients that pay more.
Yeah. And I have people that know my value. Thank you very much.
Right? I'm just like, thanks, but no thanks. And, you know, part of it was that I am, you know, I'm privileged enough to be in a position where I don't have like a family to feed or something. You know, I have, you know, I can crash my parents' place whenever I feel like it, which I do when I'm between apartments. If I'm on tour a lot, I'll just not have an apartment. I'll spend like 3 months at my mom's. And
nomad life is fun. Yeah.
Right. And she doesn't kick me out. So, you know, and I know I'm privileged to be able to say, no, I can go another month without this job because I was smart with savings. I've got some, you know, I've got side hustles, you know, I don't need to sign myself to something that underpays me for the next 6 months.
I can just important also to make sure that you do have multiple streams of income without feeling that you have to undervalue yourself at the same time. Like, you know your worth and stick to it and find other ways to support yourself if you need to, just so you don't have to lower your values or morals for a job, because it's a job. You should enjoy it as well. It doesn't always have to be such, especially stuff like that. Like, it's so frustrating. Now, so being a producer, your first job working in with something with a budget, what was that like? Like, did you feel the extra pressure? And how did you have a mentor that you could reach out to kind of guide you a little bit, or just, all right, I'm taking my first big budget and I'm going to jump in and just see what happens? Like, how did you prepare for it? So
my first job that ever show ran for reality TV was the biggest nightmare of my life. It was a reality show, and I was originally going to be a contestant on it. And it was like a low budget indie, you know, some rich people put in some money, like, you know, semi-rich people put in some money and the host was the owner of the show. And we realized 2 episodes in that she's not a good host. Like, she was not good on camera. So she ended up sabotaging the entire show. And that was the biggest nightmare as the sole showrunner with a crew of 12 people. And yeah, so that was, and at some point I just had to walk away. And it takes, you know, you have to humble yourself to just say, you know, I can't do this. I cannot make this happen. And you just have to take the hit sometimes and be like, no.
Yeah.
So my mentor at the time, and still my mentor, is my former marketing professor, actually, who actually doesn't do film. His name's Dr. Scott Rader, and I call him every few weeks, like, hey, so here's a business question. And then I ended up going to LA and hopping into reality TV. And that's when I started working with the really big budgets, and I was like, you know what? I don't need the pride of being a showrunner anymore. I don't need to be creating and selling shows, because selling a show is stressful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine telling stories. Like, I'll be a producer, I'll be a casting producer. I'm okay telling other people's stories for other networks. And that was just, a decision I had to make, because, there's a lot of pride in, hey, I made this, I built this from the ground up.
Right.
And I do still love that, but to some degree, I'm just like, that is just not worth the stress.
Yeah, or the budget cuts. Like being able to have, I'm sure, is this night and day when you can create a project when you have a budget that's in the $1 million range as opposed to in the dollar range, or the lower hundreds range. It's just you have access to more opportunities, because it seems even with the higher the budget, the more free stuff they throw at your way too, whether it's tax incentives or just people wanting their products to be seen on your show because you do already have the views, the numbers, or whatever. It's probably a lot easier. So can you speak a little bit about that as well? I mean, this is me just guessing, but you actually do the work. What's it like?
So I need to think about how to concisely say this. So yeah, sometimes like I like paying my people well, like, because I have clients and I still do commercials that are like, hey, here's, do this as a favor, take this day. When I did that Nightmare show, I was like, hey, this is a brand new show. This is my first time being a showrunner. Will you help me out with my budget? Because it's an indie thing. The budget was in like, it was in the low 5 figures, if even, like very like, it was like $10,000 to do like 3 episodes, and I was like, look, can we make this happen? Yeah. We're filming, like, the days will be easy, and that's like the worst thing. That's like one of the hardest parts of the job, and I don't want to deal with that stress.
Mm-hmm.
And now
people not showing up because you're not paying them enough, or another project's paying them more. Yeah.
And then I'm over here, working on the show that CNC already bought. So this show is like this show is it's happening, and it's not my show. I'm not the show creator, but I love this concept. So I'm working on this new show starring Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank. And that is super exciting. And I'm looking for contestants for this show. And it's so great because I was like, we should run a Facebook ad. And they're like, okay, yeah, here's $1,000. And I was like, it was that easy.
Yeah.
I'll ask for something and they'll be like, yeah, it's in the budget.
Yeah. No POs needed.
When my boss called me, and he was someone that I've worked with before, I was like, okay, this is the right one. I was like, okay, done. And I'm like, that's it? Okay, we're in business. Like, let's do this.
Yeah, I really like the way
that is like the best feeling in the world.
That is amazing. So how do you think you were able to make that transition to go from indie to get to those big budget jobs? Like, do you think it's your networking, just taking those risks, or
the universe likes me? I'm not religious. I'm very spiritual. So I'm just like, the universe just like really likes me, because this is where I haven't told you yet. But the really funny story how I switched over to reality casting and moved to LA. I moved to LA on a 3-day notice. Let's start with that. Okay. I was in like a coffee bar, like drinking a martini and going, I had like dumped a boyfriend recently and like moved back in my parents, and it was just like, and I was just like, I don't know, like, what am I doing with my life? And it was something like a really bad day. So I was like drinking martini, trying to like work. And then I pulled it out. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to apply for a bunch of jobs. Just going to apply. Just see anywhere, I need a change of scenery. And so I found this job posting for a VH1 development show, actually. And it was casting producing. And I had been like a casting director for like small stuff, like, web series. I did some stuff for WebMD where I would go looking for patients. I'm a good researcher. And I did that, but I hadn't done reality TV casting before. Mm-hmm. And this lady emails me back 3 hours later, and she goes, my intuition is like really into this. My intuition says I should, like, you have like next to no experience in this, but my intuition says that I should give you a shot. And if you can be in LA on Monday in our office, the job's yours. And I said, really?
Wow.
Like, she knew I was in North Carolina, and she was actually looking for someone local, but I straight up in my email just said, I'm willing to just pick up and go to LA and relocate, because I was like, look, I'm in a point in my life where I'm looking at a different part of the industry. I'll pack up and move to LA if I get the job. And I guess she really liked that or something. And next thing I know, that Sunday I was flying to LA, and I had a friend who actually had an empty apartment at the time. So I was like, okay, this worked. And he let me crash there.
Wow.
And that's how I moved to LA on a 3-day notice. And I worked on that, after I finished that contract, because I was like, oh, it's 4 weeks. So I didn't even like get an apartment. I was like, I'm going to Airbnb for 4 weeks, and I'm going to try this, which is funny because my whole life I said I was never going to move to LA, and I hated LA. But LA still has, LA have an interesting relationship. I miss the food a lot.
Yeah, the food.
But I need my mountains, man. Like,
yeah, big
I'm such a mountain girl. So I'm like, I like my mountains, but it's okay because I don't like the beach, and that's why I'm like, I'm just not into the beach.
Granted, let's be honest, the water on the Pacific side is really cold. I'd rather be on the East Coast as far as beaches goes.
I don't like sand, and sand just gets everywhere. It's so messy. But I like looking at the beach, but I'm a terrible swimmer, so I don't like playing in the beach. I just want to like sit on a balcony and like watch the beach and like listen to the beach, but like just the beach and not like all the people on the beach, which LA is like the worst place to do that.
A lot of people on the beach.
That is the wrong beach.
Oh god, yeah, you got to go far.
Yeah, but I really like food because I live in Koreatown, so I finished that gig, and then it just like snowballed into my 4 weeks in LA turned into 4 months because I was unemployed for all of my whole life. I said I was never going to move to LA, and I hated LA, but LA still has. LA have an interesting relationship. I miss the food a lot.
Yeah, the food.
But I need my mountains, man. Like.
Yeah, big
I'm such a mountain girl. So I'm like, I like my mountains, but it's okay because I don't like the beach, and that's why I'm like, I'm just not into the beach.
Granted, let's be honest, the water on the Pacific side is really cold. I'd rather be on the East Coast as far as beaches goes.
I don't like sand, and sand just gets everywhere. It's so messy. But I like looking at the beach, but I'm a terrible swimmer, so I don't like playing in the beach. I just want to like sit on a balcony and like watch the beach and like listen to the beach, but like just the beach and not like all the people on the beach, which LA is like the worst place to do that.
A lot of people on the beach.
That is the wrong beach.
Oh god, yeah, you got to go far.
Yeah, but I really like food because I live in Koreatown, so I finished that gig, and then it just like snowballed into my 4 weeks in LA turned into 4 months because I was unemployed for all of. Ooh, I'm sorry, that was someone. I don't know how to turn that off.
Definitely cutting that out because Game of Thrones will try to charge me for that.
Right, that was the ringtone for my casting phone that I'm turning off because my office is not the casting office is not open right now.
Okay, all right.
I took my old. Yeah, there we go.
Oh wow.
So I moved to LA on a 3-day notice, and that just happened. And I just said, I was like, hey, I'm just here for 4 weeks. And next thing I knew, it became 4 months because I just kept getting hired. I'd finish something and someone would call and be like, hey, I heard you're available. Can you come cast this show? And I was like, yeah. And that's why I fell into what I'm doing now. Scott Sawyers is one of the best casting producers in the business. He did the first 8 seasons of Shark Tank, all these business shows, The Apprentice, The Prophet. And I ended up working for him, and he was just so great, he let me learn how to do interviews and really, because he knew that I was like, I'm a little green, I had 4 credits to my name, and and he still hired me. And I was just like, this is great, and that's actually, he's the head of casting for the show I'm casting now. Right. So he called me, a few days ago and said, hey, I've got a show for you if you want to come work. And I was like, I'm available. I'm so available. So we're casting, and that's my casting call to all of you guys. We are casting for a financial money dispute, because Cavalieri is going to mediate these. So if you have any kind of dispute, it could be personal, it could be business, it could be, you know, an inheritance, someone owes you money. Obviously, we can't sue anyone for you, that's the major company, because both parties need to appear. So if you're trying to, you know, get money from, say, Amazon, they're probably not coming on the show. Yeah,
But an
I
individual
don't think we're getting Bezos on the show. So,
like small
you know,
claims court meeting type stuff. Like that
yep,
kind of
we're
thing?
not a court show, but yeah.
I mean, not
I'm thinking
court
like
shows, but people
something that
making
I
money.
think would be cool, that I personally want to, the story I'm pursuing is scope creep, because as a creative, we all know what scope creep is.
Yeah,
You know,
we'll explain it to everyone.
So scope creep is when they're like, oh, when you have a client that's like, oh, can you just like add this little thing that's not that hard? Can you just add, you know, I see it in commercials. We're like, oh, can you pull like a 10-second clip and add captions to that? Oh, can you add this extra edit? Can you just rebuild our
Can we
intro?
reuse your image over and over again for the rest of your life?
And it's not in the contract.
Yeah.
But yeah,
people
so
have no
when your
limits.
client just starts to add like little, and the scope of the project creeps up, and then you're doing all this work and you're not charging more money, and it's not, you just gotta sit them down and be like, this is the contract. This is what we're doing, and if you want me to do extra, and see, I'm really good at fighting it because I've had so much scope creep happen in my early career that at this point I'm just like, here's the contract. I've outlined it very well, and my contracts have scope creep outlined very, very well.
And I need for you to teach a class on that.
I'm just like, you get X amount of revisions, and at this point hours is when I charge more. If you do this, if you ask me to add this, I'll charge more. And they'll go, here's all the a la carte options of, if you want me to do any of this extra stuff, this is what you're gonna have to pay me. And I'm very, very strict about that. I'm also very strict about deposits, and I feel like that's something a lot of, you know, younger creatives and like newer creators don't realize. Like, you don't even need a lawyer to write this, but you just need to really outline this. So I'd love to bring a story on, you know, that isn't me,
right?
That is some that's having this, you know, probably going through this, because there's a story there. I think it's important, and I want people to do that. So I'm not there like fixing all my friends' scope creep things. You know, there's a lot of people, especially women, when they come out.
Yeah, sorry.
I give a lot of free advice, you know, because like, you know, women and filmmakers will be like, hey, you know, I'm getting started in this career. Will you give me some advice? I'm just like, yes, say no a lot. That's actually like a super side project I'm doing. My friend and I are making a coloring book based on my quotes. It's like, yeah, like those cuss word coloring books. It's called the Book of No. It's all the ways you can just say no, but with like pretty flowers and birds. And it's a coloring book that we're making of just me saying no. And at some point, one image. See?
No! Down! Yeah, no.
One of my good girlfriends told me I needed this in my life, because I am definitely one of those persons like, oh yeah, you need me to help you with that? Oh sure, you need to volunteer for that? Oh yeah. And she's like, Camille, you need to learn to say no. So boundaries are important.
I want one of those.
I keep it near me as a reminder, and if I can't say it, he says it for me. No, I won't do
and that's what I tell our friends. Like, if you need me to help you write an email of how to say no, like, I'll do it. if you're scared to say no, you want me to hold your hand while, like, I'm your girl.
I mean, it is scary in this industry, because I mean, they do blackball people sometimes, or they do, like, there's a limited amount of opportunities, so you are scared of possibly being a whistleblower and being considered difficult, or, you know, like I get the fear of wanting to whistleblow, but we really need to start embracing it. And just like, even working as a unified front, I feel like for women, especially people working in those creative fields, because people don't always value what we do. They think of it as a hobby or a passion that, oh, we shouldn't have to pay for that. And you're like, I've been training for this for years. I pay a lot of money for the different acting classes and headshots. And I'm sure with all the different software and equipment, like Final Cut Pro is expensive, and so is Final Draft. And now with Adobe's like $60 or $200 a month. I mean, it adds up. So yes, I'm charging you. Or maybe not.
Girl, you are not, like, do not pay that much for Adobe. I pay like $35 a month.
Like, it's above my pay grade and my tech skills. I'm not pay grade, but tech skills. Like, I'm not paying that much for something I don't know how to use yet.
Girl, I feel, because I use like 50 different apps on. Well, no, I use, I think, like 6 apps on Adobe. But
yeah, I'm a producer in this new show. So the different kind of characters you're looking for, or different kind of
personalities, really.
Personalities. So is there like a kind of personality type that works best for reality show as well, or doesn't work? Like, how does that?
Well, we like people that are competent.
Okay.
And it really depends on the network, like CNBC likes professionals. We like people to be well-spoken, because this is not a screaming, throwing stuff at people show. And I've worked on those, but that is not what CNBC is about.
Right.
It's
It's funny.
a
I've never
business
seen that.
show. This is a business show. We want, both sides of the argument to be, relatively like actual gray area, because we want, like, of course we want conflict. We want conflict that we can mediate.
Yeah, not
Not just
obvious.
like someone's just gonna like cross their arms and be like, no, I'm not talking to this person.
Yeah.
Because then you can't move, like that's not gonna move. So yeah, our biggest, thing is obviously we need both sides on camera. And that's the hardest part, because people are like, no. But when you realize this, it's especially if you come to we're looking for resolution. So if you come to a good resolution on this show, you get all this exposure on a major network, especially for like a business. So, another story I'd love to have is an influencer and a brand that, had a collaboration, and maybe it just didn't work out the way that everyone thought it was going to, because more out of inexperience than someone being a jerk.
Yeah.
Like the influencers, like, okay, I made the post, and maybe the engagement is not like super high, or it's not an influencer's job to do sales for you. It's they're doing, like, sales and marketing are different, and that's something that people don't realize a lot. And that's something I went through when I was doing marketing videos. People come at me like, why are my sales not increasing? I posted your video. I was like, yeah, but did you do ads on it? Like, no. Well, you're not paying me to do your ads.
Yeah,
I'm not your ads person. I'm your content creator. That's not my job.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people feel obligated to try to reach those numbers when they're promoting these products, and so it's almost as if they're becoming an infomercial for that brand for what, 2%, 3%, like different affiliate links or something. Or even if you do have a more package deal, maybe that's like they pay for a post, but there's still that pressure of getting the numbers, getting the likes in order to make sure that you do start getting those higher paid posts.
And my commercial clients I do love, and shout out to Frame It All. That's my favorite client, commercial client. I'm sorry, the rest of you guys, but Frame It All is the best. I've been doing their commercials for years. Yeah. And what's really great is I don't do their ad spends. It's a garden product, so I just get to go play in the garden and play with flowers like all day long when I'm on their set. And then they have marketing people that are like, hey, here's what works. And every year they send me this beautiful report of, these are the videos that you guys have done that have gotten the most, the most engagement, the most views, and are the most effective. Let's do that next year. Let's do this for the next shoot. But they have an entire team of marketing people that do that and like know where the ads are. And those are experts in their field. I know enough because I read the reports to know what the direction of something that works is. But when it comes to all the numbers and like the buttons and everything, I was like, I don't know how to do that. That's not my job. Yeah. And that's the thing. I'm like, you're not like, yeah, you're paying me to do your marketing videos, but you're not paying me to do your video marketing. There's a difference. Yeah. And I love them because they understand that, and they're so good about it. And they've never come at me with like, why is this video like, what? Where's my engagement? Because I'm like, that's somebody else's job.
Right. Or even just understanding all of the analytic stuff. Like, yeah, I'm not getting a Facebook blueprint degree just so I know how to do an ad or whatever.
And it's not, I understand it enough to know when someone's like completely bullshitting me on that, because I paid a lot of money to someone that was supposed to be doing my marketing for me, and it looked real good on paper, and the results, and it just didn't work out. Like it, as in I lost a lot of money, and they got like no results because. Yeah, and I should have seen it come, but now I learned.
Yeah, so I mean, people know how to play that SEO game or all the other different analytics games, so it can make it seem like this person has all these different engagements and this or that, and then you interview them. Well, in my case, you interview them, and you're like, wait. You just paid for a lot of people, didn't you? Like you start like looking, like start breaking through the cracks. Like, let me go to the 10th Google check. Like, so now, like, let me start.
You've got to really get down. Yeah, you've got to really like.
You're like
Instagram, like, and I hate like cheap tricks like that. I hate it. But for people to, and I'm passionate about that. So that's why I'm really glad I'm casting this show, because if you or anyone else has a dispute like that, and you're not like on like really, really awful terms with the other party, and they're willing to like talk to me to go on the show too, like, please send me an email.
I mean, they might like it. It's mutual beneficial for them too.
Exactly, it really is. I've got one story that I'm pursuing, and it's, they're deciding, it's two business partners trying to decide what they're going to do with all their startup cash. And I'm like, there's only
That's a
one
hard problem I can help you fix.
right? And I'm just like, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
And that's something that, our show would love to advise. And for the people on that show, like, look at all that, like, there's your brand all up on CNBC. Like,
No, and like with Shark Tank, I feel like when you're watching Shark Tank, it's not just about watching different companies grow or see the pitches, but it also isn't for the viewer. You're learning a little bit about business. You're learning more about how to
exactly.
market, how to pitch, what to say, what works, what doesn't work. And even with like different brands that maybe Shark Tank didn't work out for, like I think it was Color Pop lips, like even how she was able to flip that in another way. Like you can learn from it. So what about with this? Is there an angle with it as well where you kind of learn a little bit about how to contract, how to do it yourself, as far as like you were talking about a la carte your information, or just getting in writing from doing these different disputes as well? Is that part of the goal of the show as well, or?
Well, so obviously it's to get, Mr. Wonderful, which is, business expert, to give advice. And, his advice is, he's Mr. Wonderful. Of course you want
Yeah,
advice from Mr. Wonderful. You're going to listen to him, give advice. And I think the people that will get the most value is, as a viewer, it's how can I apply what he's advising other people to what I do? And that's why I love watching Shark Tank, because, I'll get tips and tricks of, like, oh, that is a great idea. How can I apply that to my business and what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And that's what really helped me fall in love with reality TV. I learn stuff, because I'm not like I don't like follow stuff like Jersey Shore. That's not really my style, but like I learned so much about. I love Top Model. I watched so much Top Model as a
I
teenager.
used to have
So that's how I learned
I
how
worked
to
at the
make
Mac counter during
that's
that,
how
and
I
we would
learned
have
how to
parties
like do
over. Yeah.
makeup. I learned so much from makeup watching Top Model and how to pose. And I was a photographer at the time. My college job is I did headshots and graduation photos for people.
Oh, wow.
And I did all the sorority photos. Yeah, as a freelance photographer. But I learned so much about lighting and how and posing from watching Top Model. So reality shows can be educational.
They
And
can
that's
be.
the kind of show
I mean, I
that
have
I
my
will
degree from there as well. From
so,
Bravo.
like,
No, I'm kidding.
gotta
Well,
love
there was
reality
one
TV.
show CNBC did that I absolutely loved, Follow the Leader, where they would follow different CEOs and their path, and you would just see so much from their perspective as well, like different decisions they were making. So I love that they're doing this, where you can, especially with influencers and so many people are now working from home, or entrepreneurs, or doing new business, that maybe they're not privy to the information that they would need to know. So now they can learn about that as well from this show. So I'm excited about this. Do you have any other upcoming things that you can share as well that you're casting for? Or
not yet, because I'm kind of really focused on this show.
Okay.
I'm writing. I said I never want to write another feature screenplay again. I'm writing a short. I'm writing 2 shorts just for fun. One's like a super deep dive. It's very autobiographical, because I was such a different person when I was 7 and 17, and even in my early 20s. So I want to do a concept of what would happen if, like, I was talking to my 7-year-old or 17-year-old self. Like, what would they think of me? Because I was, in my pandemic depression of what is going on with my life. Thought about that, like my 7-year-old self would think I'm a superhero, because I have achieved every dream except for getting a pretty pony. That's the only one I haven't done. But every goal I had as a 7-year-old, I've reached. I've done it. But my 17-year-old self hated reality TV and would be so. I feel like if I went to my 17-year-old self, like, yes, I'm a reality TV producer, she'd be like, aren't you supposed to be at the Oscars or something? What's wrong with you?
Like, she's the purist. How dare you sell out?
Right?
Yeah.
Because like me at 17, it was very like, I want to do like these deep dramas. Like that was like, those are my goals in 17, which makes sense as a 17-year-old, because you don't like nothing of the world when you're 17.
Right.
And it's like, I'm talented. I'm gonna like get it. I had like Oscar dreams, and now I'm just like, nah.
Yeah. It's funny how life shifts.
I mean, I'm not gonna complain if I to get put on an Oscar project or something, but that's
I
not.
mean, just like you've changed from 7 to 17, you're still opening and keeping that door open that things could change again. Because no one could ever have thought that one day we would be talking through computers as a video,
Right.
or
And
podcasting.
and even
None of
like my
that.
22-year-old self would be
Mhm.
like, I'm never moving, because when I graduated college at like 21, I was just like, I'm never moving to LA. I hate LA. I'm gonna go back to New York. I hate LA, and
Yeah.
to a degree, I still hate LA, but the food makes it worth it.
Food and sunshine for me. But you already told me that you're more of a beach and mountain. I'm not beach. You're more of a mountains girl.
Yep, I love my mountains. Like, ideally, I'd love to go back to Colorado. Like, I love Colorado, but I don't know, I haven't had a reason to go back to Colorado, and it's expensive. At least in LA, I get paid really well.
Understandably, understandable. Now let's speak a little bit about that. The big difference of filming from North Carolina and filming in LA, because I really would like to see more great projects come to North Carolina. And what are we lacking that's making people want to film more in LA? Or what do you think are the big gaps that are needed here that need to be filled in order to increase projects here, especially those bigger fun check
I think
product?
we need people that are serious here. I
Yeah.
think North Carolina needs to show up. So I joke that I'm one of the more hated producers in North Carolina. A lot of the locals are old men, and they don't like me because I feel like a lot of North Carolina filmmakers are in this like indie mindset where they're trying to say, screw Hollywood, I'm doing this without Hollywood, and I'm over here like, I'm partnering with Hollywood. I'm taking this Hollywood money and I'm gonna use that, and I'm gonna make something else. There's actually a fair amount of reality TV around here, actually.
Right. Oh, right. A lot of
Like, there's a
HGTV.
series. Yeah, there's a lot of HGTV. There's
My Big
there's
Fat Wedding.
shows that cast. I've cast in Charlotte a
Okay.
lot. There's a small scene that's growing, I feel, but it could be
Yeah,
boosted.
even
I
for
feel like a lot of the problems I've encountered being, bi-coastal, when I'm in LA and I'm calling, I was like, hey, North Carolina friends, help me out because I'm trying to put a show in North Carolina. One, I don't think they take things seriously enough here, is what I honestly think it is. A lot of them are in this like indie mindset of like, I wanna, which is, commendable, I guess. They want to build themselves up from the ground up. And I was just like, why are you building, like, you don't need to build the entire rocket. Take the blueprints and improve it. Like, you don't need to
well.
reinvent the wheel here and struggle your way up, because I don't like struggling. I don't want to work on this like it feels good when you make it after struggling, which is like, obviously, but also it feels good when you can just take something that's already there and you can just make more with it.
Yeah, and you
Which
can
is
pay
why
your mortgage.
exactly. Well, I'm a filmmaker, so what mortgage?
Oh, yeah,
So
that part.
I'm a freelancer. So
Yeah, commercial work.
all right. So there's a lot of commercial work. I actually don't do a lot of work in North Carolina. I do a lot of work for companies in Texas and in LA. I mean, right now I can work remotely, so I'm doing all my LA stuff without having to actually go to LA. And then I do a lot
Awesome.
of events. I go on tour a little bit. I go to Miami a fair amount just because I've got people there that I like working with. But I like being a nomad and just being like, yeah, I'll just hop on a plane. Well, obviously I can't do that right now, which is
Right. Well, that's why I'm like, let's find out now how we can prepare for after the pandemic to make that shift so we
I'm
can
just ready to be like, let me hop on a plane and go back to flying everywhere and doing that, because I prefer that. I'm single, like I don't have
enjoy it,
kids,
girl.
like I'm very okay with being single, which is really interesting in the pandemic, because my mom is and my friend is just like, why, like, we're so jealous of you because you could just like stay home and not talk to people for like days and days on end and be okay. Like, I'm a person that I can stay home for. I have not been going crazy this pandemic, like, at all. Like, I don't need face-to-face contact. Like, I'm so like satisfied. I'm just like, I will sit here on my computer talking to people on the computer forever, and I don't need, with zero desire to leave my house. I've been wearing PJs for the past like 4 days.
Yeah.
Like, I just changed my t-shirt.
I have to say, like, when the pandemic hit for me, it was a lot of like, I didn't think it would have lasted this long, of course, but ooh, let me take advantage of this opportunity while everyone's home. Let's do the e-spot from home, because I was doing it on a local radio station as a Thursday, just one day a week for 30 minutes segment where I would talk about entertainment, interview different comedians or whoever were performing that week, or like book my own guests or whatever. So it was only like 15, 30 minutes. I had to drive to the radio station. I wasn't getting paid to do it. So I was like, I could do that from home and still enjoy it and be able to stay in touch with the community, but also maybe reach people to find out more about that next stage in life. Because I think for women, you start, especially once, like you mentioned, being single, like once you start having a family, your life changes, because you can't just get up and go whenever you want because you have a kid that's in school, or maybe she's sick, or there's other factors you have to consider. And film is not always the most
Oh yeah, I'm at the point where I'm
yeah,
just
like
like,
commercial
I'm
work for
so
me.
okay
I
being
can take a risk.
single. Like,
Yeah,
I
enjoy
like I'm
it.
not really a kid person. Like,
Well, there's
because
a
like my
saying.
parenting style for my cat is still like, oh, my cat wants something, is bugging me, I'm just gonna push him away. Like,
Well, I
like
would
I'm
say,
already that parent with my cat, so I should not have
well,
human kids.
PETA,
Uh,
don't listen to that.
so,
Just
I
kidding.
gently just push him off. I mean, that's what my cat does.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
If
I'm
I bother
allergic to
my cat
cats,
and
so
push
I
at
have no
him,
idea
he's
about
gonna
them.
smack me like that.
I
Like,
know
I'm
they
just
push
speaking
things
a
off.
language.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, in the sense, just in
Everyone's,
general, like
my
women in
sister's just like,
general
"He's
have that
pushing?"
extra pressure of you, because you see it all the time where women are talking about they had to freeze their eggs, they have to do, like, they have to put either their career on hold or family planning on hold in order to really be successful in either. And so with
I'm
the
just
entertainment industry, I wish there was a way that you could still do both. And with commercial work, I was able to, because sometimes I could bring her with me, or I'd still be able to make it home in time. But to work those narratives or long things. So I was like, wait, now I can do this from home? I can do what I want to. I was like, and I'm not
and I
limited by
can do what I
location. I
want.
don't have to fly. Like, yeah. So when my agent started reaching out to do jobs again, I was like, did COVID go away? I'm staying home. Like, I'm not taking
No,
my
I love
mask
the
off.
staying home thing. Like, I'm
Yeah.
so okay with staying home. It's
Mhm.
and everyone's like, I'm going crazy. I want to go out. I was like,
I
I
do
don't.
miss.
I'm such like a homebody in general.
Yeah.
Like, I hate going out.
I miss the
Like,
collective enjoying things together, like music or movies or
I do miss live
comedy shows.
shows,
Like, I do miss the live interaction there. But as far as the
but I don't miss going
everyday,
out.
I don't miss going to the
Like,
grocery store.
that's the thing. People are just like, yeah. Like when people, even before that, people are like, let's go to the bars. Like, do
No
we
thanks.
have to?
Yeah.
Can I just stay home and play video games? Because that's what I'd rather do. But
And let's talk
like,
about that a little bit too, because I
that's why
love
I
that
love
you,
being.
yeah.
That's why I love being in North Carolina versus LA. Because in LA, I go out every night. I don't.
Yeah.
I have one saucepan and 2 plates in my kitchen in LA.
Mhm.
I eat out every night because it's so easy to do it.
Yeah.
But here in North Carolina, I'm just like, I'm never leaving. And so
Well,
when I
so
come
my
back to
husband
North
and I, we met
Carolina,
in LA,
I'm
and
just like,
neither of us knew how to cook until we
right,
moved
I'm
here.
just like,
Yeah.
I do not leave my house. Like,
Mhm.
I straight up, unless you're paying me, I'm not leaving my house.
Yeah, pretty much. It's not worth it. So, off air, we were talking about this, and I think it's so fascinating that with your crew or members, that you have your meetings over video games instead
Yeah.
of Zoom or so tell the audience more about that. Like that, I just love that
So
whole
my
concept.
favorite
Yeah.
thing is I've got my friends are nerds. So like if I'm like collaborating something, we will straight up play video games while having our meetings. We use an app called Discord to talk, and we'll play like Overwatch or a team building co-op game or Overcooked, and we just talk about stuff because it puts you in the mindset, especially if you're winning together,
Right.
of collaboration and team building. And that way just like we're not just like staring at each other's faces, because who wants to do that for so long? So I'm just like, after all, I just get sick of staring at their face for like forever. So
Mhm.
we just play video games, and it puts us in this mindset of like working together, which on a subconscious level, it really brings you together as a team. You really start thinking about that of like, hey, we're winning, we're working together. Of course, at some point, someone's the one that's screwing up everything in the video game. You're like, okay, we need to like mind meld a little bit better, and get better at this teamwork thing. And that's something for team building I do casually. I wouldn't put like I don't put my like executive meeting for casting on a video game, but
Right. But just like
my
the
like
intro
midnight,
meetings,
like, hey,
yeah.
let's make something for fun.
Mhm.
Meetings are all like videos. My side hustle is I own a 3D printing supply store. My business partner and I love playing video games to have our meetings for. Okay, so we should do this next. We should do that. Okay, like let's update our to-do list. Meanwhile, we're playing video games.
Right.
So yeah, I make adorable toys.
Yeah, so speak about that as well, because again, in the pandemic, a lot of people came up with new ways to make money. And with so many of our filmmaker friends and families still home, maybe some of the skills they learned in film they can use to start making money. So what is that cool contraption that's labyrinthy or
it's a fidget toy that I made. So I originally got a 3D printer. I've always been interested in it, for the past couple years. I'm a tech nerd. And I was like, oh, I'm going to make props and camera stuff. It's going to be great. What have I been making? Sharks. Toys. I have made like one lens cap for a camera. So I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. No, I've been doing this. I made coasters for my friends.
It's like a Toys R Us store. Like every kid's dream.
And I'm just sitting here making toys and models and stuff. But so I picked up baking sourdough bread and 3D printing in the pandemic. And I kept complaining about 3D printing supplies being really hard to get because you have to order them and they have to wait 3 days. And then your printer's broken for 3 days still until you get your replacement part, right? Oh. So my friend and I decided, like, hey, let's just open the store. Like, we complained for so long that we're just going to open the store. So my background is in business with startups because that's what I cast business shows. Mm-hmm. So I ended up going from idea to having inventory, making sales within like 3 weeks because I just called the right people and I just knew people.
And you made the right connection.
Really my business mentor was straight up like, you did what? I was like, yeah, it just happened. I decided that that there's a need. I don't have competition for brick and mortar 3D printing an education store for 300 miles. I'm just going to do this. I know I have an audience. My market research is, I know I have an audience because all of my friends complain about the same thing. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fix it because that's what I do. I'm a fixer. So and I make props with it. I've had custom movie stuff. All my filmmaker friends have been having me print their lens caps and props for them and coasters that say filmmaker fuel. That's been like my thing because I make cute little coasters for them.
Oh, fun.
And that just kind of like snowballed into this thing. And I'm like, great. I'm an expert in content creation. I can do this. So that business is like all of 2 months old. And right around that time is when I got called in to cast a CNBC show. So I'm just like, I'm doing so much.
Yay!
And I love it. I like being busy.
So cool. Yeah. So you have classes with your 3D printer as well, and you have the casting coming up, and your business is located not only in North Carolina, but in South Carolina. So much going on. How can people just reach you? Where is the best place for people to find you, to submit for the show? Where do they need to find you?
Instagram, Beverly Tan Film. On Instagram, it's probably the best way to be updated on what I do. I never check LinkedIn. I have a Beverly Tan Facebook page, like public Facebook page that I'm really bad at updating, but I'm going to fix that. To be cast in the show. That is what we all want to know, right? Yeah. Beverly Tan casting at gmail.com is my casting email. You'll also find information about the show on my Instagram. And you can also go to cnbc.com/money dispute with a hyphen, money -dispute. So that is the official application. Obviously, if you're seeing me here, email me directly because that way I can like prioritize you.
Ooh, and it's not exclusive.
Yep, there you go. So that way I could be like, because people submit and then I can filter, be like, okay, this isn't like an actor asking me for a job because I get that like all the time, and they're like, you do realize this is reality TV, right? It's just, and sometimes they do cast actors, but that's like really grinds my gears because people are like, I want to submit for a role, and I'm like,
well,
and
if you ever
have a dispute, I was like, I'd love to audition for you. I was like, for what?
I'm not casting anything for actors, but but if you have a casting dispute as an actor, maybe you worked on a job and they didn't pay you, or something to that effect, that it was a friend of a friend asked you to do a YouTube video or a podcast.
Yep,
they didn't pay you or something. That could be a great.
Yep, it could be. Well, yeah, it could be getting some money back. It could be like how do I fix this? It's or if you pay your agent upfront, you're doing it wrong. So because we always see that this agent wants you to pay them for these headshots. Like no, say no. Agents. Pro tip: if your agent gets paid after you get paid, any other way is not an agency. Do not do that. No. I feel like I always have to tell someone this like at least once a month. I was like, no.
It's the easiest thing to Google. It comes up right away. It's a scam.
Right? So. Like, don't do it.
Yeah.
But yes, if you have that story, I'll totally help you with that.
Perfect. So there is a place for actors. All right. Well, thank you again so much, Beverly Tan. It was so nice having this opportunity to chat with you and to share about this new opportunity. Exciting, exciting. And you have to keep us posted. So it's going to start filming February or March, right? So
Yep,
when
and
will
we're
it
actually
air?
doing remote filming so far
Oh,
because of COVID. So
good.
it's like a 1, maybe 2 day commitment. But
Oh,
yep,
perfect.
I'm not exactly sure someone else's job to figure out the details of how they're going to make it happen, but that's what they've told me this week. And it might. Hey, if COVID somehow magically goes away, it might change. But you know how it is. But don't worry, if you get selected on the show, a producer will work with you and iron all that out.
Hmm.
And I'm not that producer that's doing that.
I may be emailing you.
Please do.
All right. Well, this
I
has
would rather
been.
hear your story and tell you no than you just like miss out.
Yeah. No kidding. Like, because I'm like, oh wait, there's one that I didn't send to my lawyer yet. Just kidding.
Right.
All right. Well, it's been so much fun chatting with you, Beverly, and we will stay in touch. Please keep us posted on all that you have going on. It's so exciting to have you as a North Carolina filmmaker and LA filmmaker to be able to share the difference of both. So again, thank you so much for being my guest today and stopping by the E Spot.
Thank you. See you guys.